Okay, so we're going to start our tutorial right away. Our goal today is to learn how to 3D print a ratchet similar to the one that was 3D printed in the International Space Station and used to solve a problem that they came across and didn't happen to have the tool that they needed to solve that problem with. So you can look up the history of that online. I'm not going to go into that now. We're going to try and get right down to business as quickly as possible. So you see on the desktop here, we have a program called 123D Design. I'm just going to open that program. The logo down here is the triangular prism. And this is basically what the program looks like. I'm going to move my camera up here so that that is a little off to the side. Okay, so looking down for a sec, here's the tool we are going to try and build. Um, this is the 3D printed version. There's just a quick sketch showing you some of the dimensions we're going to be dealing with. Now you'll notice the center cube, kind of look on the side here, the center cube is 3/8 of an inch square. So we're going to have to convert that to metric, and that's one piece. And notice I've got a 10 centimeter height and about a 1.5 centimeter width with a little bit of play in this area here. We can stylize that further and kind of customize it, but that's the base shape. I've tested this one, and yes, you can work with a real metal bolt by attaching a socket to this end here. And this is essentially what we've done is we're creating a socket wrench. Okay, getting familiar with 123D design, it's probably best to start across the top. These are our transform tools. These allow you to move objects around, to stick them together, to make them larger or smaller. There's two kinds of scale options. We're not going to go into all the details. You can measure things here. Next set of tools are your primitives. These are your 3D shapes, so you're probably somewhat already familiar. These are your sketch tools. These are some of the tools we're going to be using today. So we can sketch rectangles, circles, ovals, or ellipses, different kinds of polygons, pentagons, and then curved shapes as well, which we'll talk a little bit about. Here we have constructing tools. So extrude is one of the ones we're going to look at today, as well as press pull. Extrude is contained in the construction menu, and press pull is contained in the modify menu, and that one's going to be key for finishing our cube later. Other tools here for patterns, grouping, combining and subtracting objects to and from each other, which is kind of neat, and our measurement tool. Okay, so we're going to start with our sketch tool, and we're going to start to make our ratchet simply by grabbing a rectangle. Notice over here, I'm in the top view, and the other thing we're going to do with view is make sure when you're starting out that you're actually in the orthographic top view. That just means basically I'm going to look at this object head on and as though I'm doing like a topographical drawing. If you choose your view, if you change your view to side or left or right, more accurately, you'll be looking at those objects head on from that view, but we want to make sure we are in orthographic when we're doing our initial design here. I'm going to zoom in a bit. It doesn't really matter, it's all relative. So the idea that I'm zooming in is relative to the size of my shape. But I'm going to click rectangle, and I'm going to go down to the space where I want to start sketching. And I'm going to click on the plane and just start dragging my mouse. I've not clicked yet, so I can still make this rectangle. This light blue line represents the rectangle I'm about to make. And you'll notice right now I'm in millimeters as my measurement. And I'm going to want that later, but for now I'm going to switch over. I'm just going to escape out of that. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to edit my grid. And you'll notice the default measurement units are in millimeters right now. I'm going to switch that to centimeters just to make this a little easier. So I'm just going to quickly do a little measurement here of my shape. So I've got most of my measurements. I know on the short end I'm 1.5 centimeters and my length is 10 centimeters. I want to see the larger shape here though, and it's coming in at about 2 centimeters. I'm just going to put it down over here. Right around 2 centimeters, and just to make it simple, I'm gonna shorten that and make it 2 centimeters. Okay, just to make the numbers nice and round. I'm gonna switch back here. So I'm gonna go into my rectangle tool, my sketching tool here, and I'm going to sketch a rectangle that is 2 centimeters wide. Sorry, it's not 2 centimeters wide. I'm going to tab up to get to the other one. 2 centimeters wide. And my length of my first rectangle is going to be 4 centimeters. So I'm going to tab to get to the next button, and I'm going to hit 4. So now I have a 2 centimeter by 4 centimeter rectangle. And to make that shape live into the space, I'm going to hit the enter button once. Actually, I'm going to hit it twice. Now I want to draw a second rectangle that's going to represent this part of the shape. Okay, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab my second rectangle. And believe me, there's many ways you can do this. This is just one way you can do this. So rather than getting too hung up on this specific measurement, I'm just going to use a visual measurement, non-traditional measurement here. I'm going to actually use the grid lines because I have a nicely aligned shape here. I'm going to use these 2 grid lines here and here to make my handle for my tool. So I'm going to go over to the sketch tool and select the shape that I want to add the handle to. I'm going to click once. Now it looks selected. You can see it's not as dark blue anymore. I'm going to click once and start dragging. I'm going to use these 2 lines to align my rectangle. Okay. Now the height, we're going to want this to be about 6 centimeters because our total height is 10 centimeters. And I know that the top part of the tool is 4 centimeters. So we're going to make that 6 centimeters to make up for the extra space. And the other one, I'm going to leave at about 1 centimeter right now. So we're doing a slightly different design, but that's okay. It'll work just fine. I'm going to hit enter twice, and now I have a shape that mimics or looks similar to the base shape that I have over here. So earlier I told you about using the orthographic view for when you want to look at things head on. Now I'm going to switch. I'm going to go over into this little sub menu and I'm going to click on perspective. And I'm going to click on perspective and you're going to learn about a new viewing tool here. This is the orbit tool. So I'm going to click once on the orbit tool and this gives me a circle. I'm going to put my mouse inside the circle and just click and drag my mouse. And I can change my view now. And you'll notice that what I have is actually a 2D shape, not a 3D shape. So I'm going to grab one of these other tools I told you about earlier. And you can actually do this with either of the 2 tools. I'm going to use the extrude tool right now to show you how we're going to drag up part of our shape. So I'm going to grab the extrude tool and I'm going to click on the first box that we made. And you'll notice I have a little arrow here that is white. And as I put my mouse over the arrow, it turns yellow. And I'm just going to physically click hold. Oops. Try that again. Physically click hold and drag that shape up. Now, if I use my tape measure, we're looking at about 2 centimeters tall. So right now I'm around 1.3. I'm going to double click in here to select the shape. I'm going to click on 2 and hit enter. So I go back to my orbit tool and it shows me I now have a 2 centimeter shape. Well, that's great, except my handle, the other part, my handle now is still flat. So I'm going to repeat the same process. But I'm not going to make it quite as tall because I want a little bit of a ridge there. So I'm going to grab the extrude button again, the extrude tool again. I'm going to go down to my other shape. I'm going to click once and I drag up. And I'm just going to eyeball this one. Okay? And just to keep it reasonable, I'm going to make it 1.25 centimeters tall. Okay, so we've started to build a 3D shape. It's the base of our tool now. So this is where our hand is going to go, and this is where our ratchet's going to go up here. This is the pan tool. The pan tool allows you to move your camera view around. Notice that when you are panning around, you are not affecting or changing the object in any way. Same with the orbit tool. I'm just changing my view rather than the actual object. Okay, so now we've got to modify this in such a way that we can actually connect this to a socket. So right now we have the base for our ratchet, but now we want to turn it into a ratchet that could actually accept the socket that we're going to use. The one I'm going to use for demo purposes is a 3/8 of an inch ratchet or socket. So we're going to need a 3 of an 1/8 inch male component to our socket. And we want to convert 3/8 of an inch to millimeters is 9.525 millimeters. Okay, I'm going to now switch back over to 123D Design. Move my camera up here. Go back into the sketch tool. Grab the rectangle. Click on the shape I want to draw my rectangle. And start dragging down. You can see there's a square there. I'm going to go and type in my dimensions now. 9.525. Tab to get to the next box. 9.525. And hit enter. And I now have the right-sized square to finish my ratchet. All I have to do now is make it 3D. I'm going to go to my orbit tool. Now you'll notice right here the difference between orthographic and perspective. When I'm in orthographic, the view is intended to be head-on, so the shape looks a little funny. So I'm going to switch back now to my perspective view, and it kind of corrects the way it corrects the shape to look the way it should look when you're looking at it from an angle. I'm going to grab the extrude tool like we did before. Actually, this time I'm going to grab the press pull tool from the modify menu. And I'm going to, when I see the yellow arrow, I'm going to click, hold, and drag it up. There's no exact measurement for this one. That's about 1 centimeter, and that should work. And I'm going to hit enter. Okay, now we have our basic shape. This alone would work. We could put the socket on the square end here, and we should be able to turn it just for a little bit of style. We're not going to do too much because we don't want to be sitting here all day. I'm going to just add a little bit of curve to the shape. So I'm going to go into my modify menu again, and I go over to the fillet tool. And this is a term you might actually hear in woodworking. Same with chamfer or chamfer, depending how you pronounce it. I'm going to, again, grab my fillet tool, and I'm going to select all the top edges of the base shape. So I'm going to click on each edge while holding the shift button so I can select multiples at the same time. That's a very common theme in a lot of software, is holding shift to select more than one shape or more than one edge. And you'll see I have my yellow arrow. I'm going to drag that ever so slightly down just for a little bit of visual appeal. And when I like the look of it, I'm going to hit enter. I can do the same up here. Go to fillet, click, hold shift, click, click, click. And I'm just going to pare that down a little bit. Awesome. If I like the look of it, I'm going to hit enter. And there we go. That is when 3D printed, will be a working ratchet. Very similar, maybe not quite as stylish, but very similar to the ratchet that the International Space Station 3D printed while in orbit. And there you have it. Let's see if you can make it now.